Hi, welcome to Kim's Classroom, where entrepreneurship meets stained glass artistry. So if you've been using a Cricut to cut out your stained glass patterns, and why wouldn't you? It makes it so much easier. Then you know that you are limited by the width of the machine. And regardless of whether you have a Cricut Explore, a Cricut Maker, a Maker 3, or a Maker 4, you are limited to the width of the machine, which is about 12 inches. Now, I have a Cricut Maker, so I have to use mats. I have a 12-inch by 12-inch mat, and I also have a 12 by 24-inch mat. But I'm still limited by the 12 inches. And even if you have a Maker 3 or a Maker 4, you are still limited by the 12-inch width. You have a limited, well, almost unlimited length if you have a Maker 3 or a Maker 4. So you're going to be able to cut larger or longer patterns, but you're still limited to the 12-inch wide. And actually, you don't even have 12 inches. You only have 11 and a half because that's the cut size. So what do you do if you have a pattern that's wider than 12 inches? Well, in Cricut Design Space, there is a tool called the Slice tool. And today, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to use it, whether you have a Cricut Explore, a Cricut Maker, a Maker 3, or a Maker 4. I'm going to show you all the methods on how to use the Slice tool to create a pattern that's wider than 12 inches. So let's get into it. So before I get started here, make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you never miss any of the great tutorials and videos that I am bringing to you right here through Kim's Classroom. So I have uploaded this design into Cricut Design Space. And so this is the pattern that I'm going to be using to demo this tutorial. And you'll notice that if I go up here to the size, right up here, it's 16 by 16. So this is going to be wider than the 12 inches that I have on my mat and the 12 inches that the machine can handle, that the Cricut can handle. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to create a slice, actually 3. I'm going to be doing 3 slices on this particular design. So I'm going to come over here to my right-hand side, and what I'm going to do is I want to duplicate this pattern 3 times because I'm going to be making 3 slices, and I'm going to explain why here in a sec. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click and duplicate. And then I'm going to right click again and duplicate again. So now I've got 3 patterns. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all 3 of them. So if I select the first one and then press my Shift key, then I can select all 3. Now all 3 are selected. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay them on top of each other so that they're all aligned. So to do that, I'm going to go up to Align and click Center Horizontally, and then Center Vertically. And now they're all on top of each other. I have them all selected, but they're all on top of each other. Now, if we come over here to the right-hand side, you'll notice that there's a little red exclamation mark here. What Cricut Design Space is telling me here is that the image is too large and that I need to reduce it to 11.5 by 23.5 because that's the largest that my Maker can handle, and that would be a 12 by 24 inch mat. So I'm going to go ahead and off click that because I know that it's too large, and then I'm going to hide these 3 or turn them off so I don't see them. So I just have the one pattern selected right now. That's the one that's active. So what I want to do now is I want to make 3 slices because we're using the Slice tool. And I'm going to zoom in slightly so you can see what I'm talking about. So you will notice that in this pattern, I have some long pieces and they are longer than 12 inches. So I'm going to have to use my 12 by 24 inch mat on this pattern so that I get these long pieces in, okay, that are on both the right and the left. But I've also got long pieces at the top and the bottom. So in order to get all of the pieces in their entirety, I'm going to have to do 3 slices. The first slice is going to be on this side, second slice is going to be on the right hand side, and then I'll do 1 slice right down the middle. Now obviously there's going to be some overlap, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. But that's intentional. I'm going to have some overlap, and I'll show you what we do with the overlapped pieces. So I'm zooming out a little bit, and now what I'm going to do is go over to the shapes menu, and I'm going to select this shape right here. Now this is a rectangle or a square, and I want to make sure that I get the square that has the sharp edges, not the one, this one here has slightly rounded edges. I don't want that one. I want the one that has sharp corners. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this, I'm actually going to make it 12 by, or 11 and a half, because that's my cut size, by 23 and a half. That's my mat size, but I don't have to make it that big. I only have to make it big enough to cover my pattern. So my pattern, if you remember, is 16 inches by 16 inches. So what I'm going to do, just to make sure, I'm going to make this 11 and a half by 18, and that should cover whatever I need to get out of my 16 by 16 pattern. So just come up here to size. All right, and I'm going to off click the lock here that will constrain proportionately. I don't need it to constrain proportionately. In fact, I don't want it to. So in the size on the width, I'm going to type in 11.5. And then on the height, I'm going to type in 18. And it's almost there right now. Okay, 11 and a half by 18. We're good to go. So now I've got this square that's covering up half of my pattern. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a color. So I'm going to make this a kind of a pinky salmon-y color. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that 2 more times. I'm going to right click on the rectangle and click duplicate, and then duplicate again. So now I've got 3 rectangles. And I'm going to make this rectangle a different color, and I'm going to make this rectangle a different color. So now I've got 3 colors, so I can keep them straight, so I can keep them separate. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the kind of purpley, I guess that's maybe called orchid, and then the blue, maybe call that periwinkle. So salmon, orchid, and periwinkle. At any rate, now I have my basic cut square. Okay, this is going to be my first slice. I have my pattern, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over here to the my rectangle, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to send it to back. So now I can see my pattern and I can see where I can place it. So I'm going to place it about right here. That should give me plenty of room to get everything on this side of the pattern in. Now you'll notice, of course, that these pattern pieces, I mean, even if I brought this all the way over here, you can see, and if I zoom in, you can see that it doesn't quite cover my pattern here. That's why we're going to be placing 1 slice right down the middle. All right, so let's position it. And now I have this selected, and then I'm going to hit my shift key and I'm going to select my pattern. So now both my pattern and my square or my rectangle are selected. And when I did that, if you come down here, you'll notice that the slice tool right here is now active. Okay, it didn't show up before that. So let me demonstrate again. I'm going to off click my square. Now you can see that it's grayed out. Select it again, shift select. So now I've got both my pattern and the rectangle selected, and now I'm going to click slice. When I do that, now I've got 4 slice results. So what does that mean? Well, the first one is my rectangle. Now I don't need that. I'm going to delete that. Then I've got my slice result that's actually the other part of my pattern. I don't need that either. I'm going to delete that. And now I have two left. I'm going to delete one of these. One of them is going to be my color slice. The other one is a black and white slice. I'm going to get rid of the black and white slice. And I believe it is this one here. And when I delete that, now we're left with the basic cut. And if I zoom in, you will see that it is, my lines are salmon colored, and that's exactly what I want. Okay, zoom back out again. Now I've got two more of my rectangles and two more of my patterns. I'm going to turn on this pattern, and now I'm going to turn on my periwinkle colored square. And now I'm going to take that and I'm going to place that over the right hand side of my pattern. I'm going to send it to back by right clicking and click send to back so I can see my pattern. And let's get it positioned right where we want it. Again, I'm getting the side pieces, but I'm not getting all of the middle pieces. I'm getting some of them, but not all of them. And so it's important that I get all of them. So I'm going to now go ahead and make my slice. Shift, select, slice. And now I've got my slice results. I'm going to delete first my periwinkle, then my slice result here. That's the remainder of my pattern. Remember that. Okay, delete that. And then I'm going to delete this slice result and delete. And so now what I should be left with is my periwinkle slice, and that's what I've got. Now be careful when you're doing this to not delete the slices you've already made. What I can do is I can rename these, and I can say this can be slice 1 or slice left, let's say. Let's call it slice left. And we're going to call this one, by right clicking and click rename, I'm going to make this one slice right. Whoops. Okay. And you can reorder these if you need to. All right. So now we're going to make our last slice, and that's going to be our orchid colored square. And this one I'm going to place right here, right in the middle. Because what I want to do is I want to get those middle, those long pieces that are at the top and the bottom. I want to make sure that I've gotten them accounted for. And yes, you can see this one and this one they both fall within that rectangle. Same thing down here. I want to make sure. Okay. And that's looking good to me. And now I'm going to turn on my pattern, select it, select my square, and make my slice. And so now I'm going to delete the color. I'm going to delete the remainder of the pattern, delete the slice result, that one, the black and white. And so now I'm just left with this, right click, rename, slice, and I'm going to call this slice center. All right, so those are my 3 slices. Now before we go and make the pattern or cut it out on the Cricut, I want to point out a couple of things. Now remember, we had to get the whole pattern in, right? And so some of the pieces we had to overlap. So if I zoom in, you're going to notice, let's make sure, you will notice that, let me turn on the center, actually the center slice. Which one is it? This one. Okay, so the center slice If I turn this one on, as we said before, you'll notice that all the pattern pieces are fitting. Now, what if you had a pattern, however, that was longer than 24 inches? Well, you're going to have to make at least 4 slices. And in this case, if this pattern were, let's say, 36 inches, I would actually have to make 6 slices, or 6 of these rectangles sized about 11.5 by 23.5, and then you would have to cut all 6. You want to be careful because you don't want to waste vinyl, but on the other hand, you want to make sure you get all of your pattern pieces accounted for. So just remember, whether you have a 12 by 12 mat or a 12 by 24 mat, or you have a Cricut Maker 3 or a Maker 4, that's going to determine how many slices you're going to have. If you have if all you have is a 12 by 12 mat, you're going to be limited by the size of the mat, and it might not cover all of your pieces. So just be aware that you're going to have to think about how big is your pattern, how big are the pieces in the pattern, like are they longer or wider than 12 inches, right? And then how many slices you're going to have to make and what size those slices are going to be. And again, you want to make sure you're not wasting material, but that is something that you're going to have to take into account when you make your own slices. And now I'm ready to cut. So let's go to the Cricut. Now I'm here at my Maker, I'm in Design Space, and I'm going to go up and just click Make. And now you can see it's ready to go. Now, I'm getting an error message up here. At least one of your images is larger than 11.5 in height or width. We know that, and I'm just going to go ahead and click OK because we're using the 12 by 24 inch mat. Now, again, I don't need to put vinyl on the whole mat, just long enough to encompass the pattern. Okay, so we had said it about 18 inches, and so that is what I have done. And so now I'm going to click continue, and now it's going to connect my machine. Okay, and now we can go ahead and select my material, which is vinyl. And now it's going to tell me to load my tools and materials. I have my 12 by 24 mat ready. I'm just going to go ahead and put that in the machine, like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and load it by pressing the load button. And when we see this button blinking, that means we can press that and that will start the cut. So let's go ahead and start it. And when I do that, the Cricut springs into action. And it's going to go ahead and start cutting. So now this slice is completely cut. Okay, and now it's done, and you can see here the unload button is blinking, and so now I can go ahead and back that out, and there we go. And now Cricut is prompting me to put in the next 12 by 24 mat, and that's what I'm going to do now. Go, and I'm going to do that now. And now it's going to cut the second slice. And now, as you can see, I've got one of my patterns. I've already weeded out, and I've already taken out all of the pieces that I won't be needing, that actually are going to be covered by the center slice. Okay, this is the left-hand slice. Now this is the right-hand slice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to weed this one, and then I'll number it, and then I will go ahead and finish up with the center slice. Notice that I've got some of the pieces, quite a few of the pieces already numbered over here. So what I'm really going to be left with in the center are just kind of those long pieces at the top and the bottom that aren't covered here in the left or in the right. So let's go ahead and weed this, and then we'll finish up with the final center slice, and this pattern will be ready to cut. Now I have the right side and the left side weeded and numbered, and now I'm going to finish with the center section, the center slice. And so we'll weed it, number it, and then this pattern will be complete. And on the center, the only thing I really need are these long pieces right here, this one and this one. All the rest are pretty much already cut. I'm actually going to leave most of these on here though, because what happens if I make a mistake? Then I've got extra pattern pieces that I can use. And I probably should have done that to the other one, but you know, no matter. I've got the pattern and I can always recut it. So there you have it. Those are the 3 slices for this pattern. And now I can go ahead and start cutting glass. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. That is how you use a slice tool in Cricut Design Space to make patterns that are wider than 12 inches wide. And if you like this video, make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, and leave me a comment. If you have questions about the process, anything that I didn't cover here in this tutorial, please let me know, drop me a comment, and I'll see you in the next video right here in Kim's classroom.